Hello and welcome back to another video from Average FPL. We're just going to preview game week 19 in this video. And I think before I start talking about my team and the fixtures, I think it's important just to acknowledge that FPL have added in an extra chip. I'm sure if you're up to date, you'll be aware of it, but it's Christmas, so you might have not noticed yet. They've added an extra free hit chip in which comes into play from game week 20. So not this game week, but the next game week. So it's worth just discussing, what that means, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, um, and just my thoughts generally, and also just advice on when we could use it to benefit our teams. Because I feel like a lot of people will go, "Oh, an extra free hit chip. I'm going to use the one I've got right now." This game week because I've got an extra one. Now, that is an option, really. It depends on how many players you've got. I would say if you were playing the game seriously or you're experienced, you probably haven't used your first free hit chip yet. You'd be saving it for either a blank game week or a double game week. There is a chance that you used it, previously in previous game weeks if you had a lot of players that were not playing because of COVID postponements. So when to use it, I would always just save these. I wouldn't use these now. I would use them for blank and double game weeks that are planned. I mean, it's more likely to be double game weeks now. All these players that are missing games, they're going to be having double game weeks at some point. They're not adding in, well, it's very unlikely that Fantasy League would add in extra game weeks, to game week 39 or game week 40. It's more than likely just going to be a situation where these games are added quickly into a double game week, into a game week that's already playing. So, in order to have flexibility at short notice, it would make sense to keep this free hit chip. Now, for those of you that don't know, the free hit chip, it basically means you can just make any changes you want to your team for one game week as long as it's within your budget. And the next game week, it goes back to your old team. So essentially, if you might use it where, say your players have bad fixtures and you might just want to swap them out for a week. You might have a lot of injuries that are short term, and then you might like your current team, but you're thinking, oh, for this game week, it just looks like everything's stacked against me. How can I solve it without using all my points as transfers? And you use it by dipping into your free hit and you change your team for the week and then it goes back to normal. So yeah, I've always used it in terms of a way to get extra points in doubles or blanks. I can see people using it now if they own three Liverpool players. Um, but really, I think, is it a good thing? I think it really keeps everybody more engaged because imagine if you're one of the people that suffered recently with fixture postponements, you've maybe not got the points you wanted. I think if you've got, you're feeling a bit like, oh, what is the point? I'm not going to be where I want to be. I think having this free hit chip, it keeps people more engaged. It keeps Fantasy League more competitive, which some people might be like, oh, well, people usually drop out this time of year and it's going to affect my rank. But really, you want a good rank because you're a good manager rather than, oh, lots of other people just stop playing and that's why I've got this basically false rank. This number that you look at the end of the season. You want it to be something you've earned. So you do want as many people actually playing as possible. Um, I think it's good for you if you felt like you had to use your free hit previously to keep up with fixtures. And the people that didn't, the people that planned, they get an extra free hit as well, so they get double flexibility. So I think it is fair. I think it's a good situation in that sense. I don't really see too many negatives with it. I know some people might be thinking, oh, like I used transfers last game week, and if you use points as your transfers when you could have used your previous free hit because you didn't know the second free hit was coming. I think they're probably the people that maybe have the right to feel most annoyed about this, but they still get, you know, two free hits later on, so which they could then use in another situation when, you know, if you might have been prepared to spend points on transfers then as well. So yeah, it is interesting. It keeps people engaged. So looking at my team, for this week, I am at the moment able to get 11 players out. Now, there's definite um, things to fix. Let's say I have two free transfers, but I am not making transfers until right before the deadline in case any more games are postponed. Last game week, I brought in Chris Wood. I had two free transfers anyway, so if I didn't use one, I would have lost it. So it didn't really lose anything. But brought Chris Wood in, and his game got postponed against Villa 2 hours before kick-off, and it's just you just think, well, it is what it is. He's got a reasonable game this week at home against Everton, so we'll see how that goes. Now, Liverpool no fixture, that is going to affect a lot of people. Now, I am really thinking, whether I get rid of Salah or not. I think we've got moving forwards. Salah's got not too long before the Africa Cup of Nations comes on, and a lot of people are thinking of getting him out before Chelsea. So you have this game week where he's got no game, and then you've got the 28th of December, he's got Leicester away, and then he's got Chelsea at home, and then he should really be going to the Africa Cup of Nations. That'll also affect players like Mane, maybe Mendy for Chelsea. So I'm really thinking, do I get rid of Salah now? Well, I've got two free transfers. I've got players that aren't playing. I've got Brownhill starting in my midfield. I've got Henry and Manquillo starting. They both got flags. Would it make sense now, rather than using a free hit, just to take Salah out, get a bit more funds, make some changes, bolster up maybe midfield or defence, and I could, go from there. I think I'm quite wanting to keep Van Dijk and Trent in my squad going forward, even though Liverpool lose some good players. Um, and it might affect them defensively because obviously if they press from the front, you've got players in a front three that are used to that system that are pressing, and if you're bringing in players off your bench, this is Liverpool, not Fantasy League. Liverpool bring in players off the bench that maybe aren't as good as Salah and Mane, and they're obviously not going to be. Then that system overall might get affected a little bit. But Liverpool's fixtures do look good after that Chelsea game, and I think I'd like to give it a go. I'd like to keep them going in my team going forward. So I am really thinking of getting Salah out this week before he starts dropping in price. Let me know what you think about that, and who you might get in. Would you spread the funds a bit more evenly over a few weeks? So, for instance, I could use Salah's money into getting maybe a less expensive midfielder, but then upgrading someone like Brownhill and Manquillo, and that would maybe give me I'd spread my funds out a bit more. I might have fewer players who are getting big point returns, but if I spread it out, I guarantee or I increase my chances of getting 11 players out if more games are cancelled because of COVID. If you get in one or two big hitters in your team, I think that's extremely risky at the moment. Um, with COVID calling off these games, I think you're much more better off just spreading your funds out, having a deep bench, having options that are going to play if the team plays, because not only are you fighting COVID, you're also fighting fixture rotation as well at this time of year. So I've still got Jesus in, and goodness me, he played last game. He only got one assist. I think Man City won 4-0, but I think maybe swapping him out for someone that's a guaranteed start. I think you've just got to increase your chance as much as you can. Get players in that are going to play if their team plays. Um, so would I use a free hit this week? No. I also think to consider with a free hit is if you've got lots of problems in your team, then you change it for a week, but then you are left with that team the next week. And if those problems are long term, a free hit doesn't really solve that. It's really a short term, not even solution, just like a stopgap. Um, for that period of time. So I think if you were going to try and solve your problems with a free hit, it really needs to be fixture based rather than injury based. Um, I would also be really cautious about using a free hit at the moment in case more games get called off. I think any transfers, any chips, anything you're going to use, you have to leave it up to the deadline within half an hour. Maybe don't leave it too close to the deadline because I think a couple of weeks ago the website crashed. If everyone's leaving it too late, then the website might not be able to handle it. So I'd say an hour, 2 hours. I think if you use your chips, you use your transfers, and then games are called off after the deadline is done, you can't worry about that sort of thing. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Like you can't predict what's going to get called off after the deadline. I think you just have to. Otherwise, you'll never do anything. You'll never make any changes. I think you've got to assume that if within an hour before the deadline, nothing's going to get called off, and then it is what it is after that. Don't beat yourself up about it. So yeah, I'm going to be saving my free hit chips until double game weeks. I think that would be a great strategy personally. I wouldn't use it this week unless more games get called off in the next couple of days. But even then, it's like if your star players, it depends what matches are still on. If you've got Brighton, Brentford, and I don't know, Burnley, Everton. It's not going to be goals galore, is it? You're not going to get in players from those teams. You're thinking, oh yeah, get these players in. That's going to save my fantasy game week. You've got to play it smart as well. A lot of people will start thinking, oh, extra free hit chip. I'll just use it this week because I wouldn't have had it anyway. Bonus time. You know, just be really careful with it. Stick to a plan. Just because the options have changed a bit, you've still got a plan overall and just play it smart. But yeah, I'd be really interested to know what you think about my Liverpool situation, getting Salah out. I am leaning towards that. So do you think I should get Salah out? Who do you think I should get in? Do you think I should get in another big hitter or spread the funds? And let me know what you're thinking for your team as well. If you guys need any help going forward, I always try and help out where I can. If you want to take my advice, which is another question altogether. So thank you very much for listening. Have a great Christmas if you celebrate that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.